bones vision. But it happens by what? By the Spirit of God. And you have what a contrast. On one hand, you've got the Ruach, the Spirit, and then you got the bones. You got the biggest contrast, because one is still, one is moving, one is dead, one is life. It's a contrast between the flesh and the Spirit. The Lord said it's the Spirit that gives life, the flesh doesn't. The flesh ends up, without the Spirit, ends up just bones. But the Spirit gives life. And beyond this right now, what he says, he tells the prophet, prophesy to the wind. He also speak to the winds and have them come. So the first thing, he's got to not just focus on the bones, he has to focus on the Spirit or the wind, and that tells you something right there. You're dealing with hopeless, you're dealing with a situation. First thing is, don't dwell on that situation. Lift your head to God and focus on the Spirit of God and the power of God, because he can take any situation, the most hopeless situation, and turn it around. It's not the situation. Don't get wrapped up in the situation. Don't get wrapped in the dry bones. Get wrapped up in the Spirit, the answer. So this life comes. And it comes, and so it comes upon this dead scene. And what it's saying is, no matter, without the Spirit, everything is dead. But with the Spirit, everything is alive. And the answer is not trying to work out everything in your situation. The answer is letting God come into the situation. Let the Spirit come in. God tells Ezekiel, prophesy. The answer to your problem is not the problem. The answer to the valley is not the valley. So don't get wrapped up in it. Prophesy to the spirits. Get into the Spirit, not the flesh. And that's where it comes. Get your eyes off the flesh. Get your eyes off of your flesh. Get your eyes off your neighbor's flesh. Get your eyes on the Spirit. Hope. If you live in the flesh, you end up in the valley. Live in the Spirit, you're going to get out of the valley. Now, people have ideas of the Spirit. So often people have the ideas that if it's the Spirit, everything is going to go out of order. Everything is going to break out of order. Everything's going to be chaotic. It's the Spirit. Just let the Spirit happen. A lot of what passes for the Spirit is not often the Spirit. A lot of it is emotionalism. A lot of it is many things. But you'd expect, if the wind is blowing on the bones, you'd expect the bones would get all the more messed up because the wind's blowing on bones. Not what happens. The wind blows on the bones, and the bones don't get more scattered. They come together. Foot to foot, bone to bone. And so what does that tell you about the Spirit? The Spirit is not the spirit of chaos. The Spirit of God is a spirit of order. It's freedom. It's freedom from man's ways, but it's the order of God. It brings order. It brings order to life. The Spirit of God takes a mess and puts it together so it becomes an order. Takes messed up situations and makes it make sense. Takes messed up people and makes them make sense. Takes messed up lives and past and puts it all together. What happens in the Spirit? The Spirit does the same thing in your life that he did in the valley. He takes all the scattered pieces that are all messed up and he brings them together one piece at a time, connects this one and this one. Then when you start looking back at your life, say, wow, you put this together and this together. Again, you may not see what God's doing in the middle of it, and it must have looked pretty chaotic, much crazy to Ezekiel, but at the end you see what he's doing. Same in your life. You don't often see it, but at the end you look back and think, God, you put it all together. The Spirit took every part of your life and he put it all together. The more you follow him, the more you walk in the Spirit, the more things are going to start coming together. The more you live by God's will in the Spirit, the more he will bring things together in your life. See, the idea that people have that freedom goes against order, that's not so. Chaos does not go with freedom. If your house is a mess, you don't feel freedom. You don't feel freedom at all. And the same way, if your walk has no order, you won't have freedom. If you don't have any self-control, you're not going to have freedom or joy of the Spirit. When things are in God's order, that's when you have freedom. And so what's the dry bones about? It's a picture of a specific nation, Israel, fallen, devastated, crushed. Yet the wind of the Spirit moves upon them, kind of like the wind of the Spirit, though the Spirit moved upon the waters at the beginning of creation. And it says everything was null and void, but all of a sudden life comes. Well, the same way the Spirit moved on the waters and brought life, So the Spirit moves upon the bones and brings life. And so the Spirit moves upon our lives and brings life the same way. The power of the Spirit is to move on something that is devastated and make it restored. Move upon something that's been a life that's been so messed up by sin, emotional mess up every way, and turn it around. The effects of falling, the more you live in the Spirit, the more the Spirit will undo the effects of falling in your life. He'll take wounds and he'll heal them. You have the most messed up life, but the more you live in the Spirit, the more it will be healed. The more the more the brokenness will be put together. The Spirit takes brokenness and